I learned lots of coping strategies through this time. Strategies like what's now known in psychology as learned helplessness, which is where we give up and accept our fate before giving something a really good go. And I noticed that I was doing that quite a lot in multiple areas of my life and really sabotaging myself. So um, when I discovered that, I started working on all things self worth. I started thinking, how do I increase my self worth? What do I do?
Hey guys, welcome to our SoulFam Podcast, where I interview space holders from all over the world. I am your host. My name is Karolina, and I am the connection catalyst. I help spiritual entrepreneurs experience deeper connection with themselves, with others, and with the universe. Today on the show, we have Jakob Casella, the subconscious mindset coach, the self worth specialist, and the business mentor. Welcome to the show, Jakob. How are you doing?
Hey, Carolina, thank you so much for having me. I'm doing really well. It's a really, really hot night here in Byron Bay. It's like the hottest day we've had this summer. So I'm doing good, feeling the heat, but yeah, things are good. Thanks for having me.
Oh, you're in Byron Bay. I love this place. One of my best friends is living there and she's sending me all these pictures and beautiful. I'm like, oh my God, I miss it so much. I've been living there for like a month and I just felt this high vibe of this place. I feel like it's one of the higher vibes cities in Australia, or at least or towns. At least it seemed to me like that. There is a lot of conscious people, so that's so good that you're there. Awesome, and yeah, I would love to talk to you about many topics because first, of course, about Psych-K, which is my favorite, absolutely favorite healing method that I'm using on myself and on my clients. And I know that you're also specializing in Psych-K because this is how I found you. I followed you on Instagram when I did my Psych-K workshop. And I would really love to talk about this because I haven't really talked about it with anyone yet. And so I would love to know. Like, what do you feel that Psych K is the best for? I mean, is there even anything like that? Or is it just so broad that you can pretty much work with Psych K on
Mm.
anything?
No, I think it is really good for a couple of things. I'm going to say there's two things that I think it's really, really good for. The first one is changing subconscious programs. And programs are our autopilot, they're our habitual ways of thinking, feeling, and behaving. And a lot of these are held from our younger years, from our early years. A lot of these ways that we think, feel, and behave are adaptations from ways that we have learned to cope with the world. And as kids, a lot of these ways of coping worked for us, but sometimes as adults they don't work anymore. But because they're in the subconscious, we can't just think about it and make them change. We need to go a little deeper to change these subconscious programs. So I think that Psyche is really good for changing subconscious programs that have been um, played out for many, many years in an unconscious kind of way. I think the second thing that it's really good for is releasing, and inside K they call it releasing stress or transforming stress. But I think using the word stress makes it sound very simple. What that really is it's releasing, processing, and effectively letting go of any past trauma, any emotional baggage that we're holding on to, anytime that we've experienced emotions within our system, but we haven't been able to really let ourselves feel them, maybe we've been in a public place or we've felt ashamed or it hasn't been safe for us to do so, or we've been worried about what other people will think, and we push our emotions down. And when we push our emotions down, it doesn't go away, it gets stored within our system. Psych-K is really good for finding these stored emotional baggage or blockages and releasing them, letting them go, processing them effectively. They're the two things that I use it for in my business. Yeah, life changing modality, life changing tool that I now use in my coaching business, and I absolutely love it.
This is really, really amazing and what you shared. And I just feel like for me, I use it pretty much in every area of my life. And maybe let's tell the listeners a tiny bit about how exactly it works, like what is done there, because
Yeah,
maybe a little bit about the whole brain state, if you don't mind, just so that people understand what is going on there. Like, okay, it's a modality for belief change and resolving stress, but what is going on? Like, how does it
yeah.
work? What happens on the session?
Absolutely, yeah. So this modality is a kinesiology and psychology hybrid. It's a very broad way to describe it, but it uses kinesiology, right? And kinesiology involves using muscle testing, which is a way to communicate or speak to the body. And the subconscious and the body, I kind of think they are the same thing. Or to get even more clear, um, by speaking to the body, we're able to find out things about the subconscious that are difficult to just find out by asking a person, right? I can say to one of my clients, "Do you think
Yep.
that do you have any blockages around calling in and experiencing romantic love, or do you have any blockages around
Nah,
moving to the next level of
nah.
business?" No, no, right? And
I don't. I don't.
of course not, of course not. Um, I think that this modality is amazing because it's able to bypass the conscious mind and go to the subconscious and start communicating with it, and ask it certain questions. And again, I'm not being technically right here. We don't really ask it questions. We 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 repeat certain statements and we test to see if the body is in resonance with that statement. So if we test statements like, you know, I feel, it's safe for me to experience deep romantic love. Okay. And now you might say, yes, of course, that's safe. But when we speak to the body and we ask and we use muscle testing, if we get a weak muscle, we can do it multiple times and the person can push really hard and it's still going weak. We're like, okay, there's something here. And when we know there's something here, then we get to use the next part of the process, which is we get to use what's called a whole brain state to release any of the stress, any of the trauma, any of the emotional baggage that is held there. And we get to create an alternate program, an alternate way of um, our subconscious interacting with the world. And when we do that, at the very end of the session, we'll come back and we'll try again. We'll say, it's safe for me to experience deep romantic love. We'll test the muscle. And most of the time, the muscle is very strong and the person feels the difference. When you're doing face to face, they feel the difference. When it's online, we do it through a different, something a little bit different. So it's a bit harder for them to understand to feel that change. But I believe that creates a feedback loop. The loop begins with, you know, I don't feel okay about this. My body goes weak when we talk about this. We've just done a ritual. We've just done some work. We've focused our intention on this particular thing. We've looked at all the different things that happened in my life around romantic love, why it wasn't safe. My relationship with my parents, maybe the psyche facilitators asking different questions and helping you to go a little bit deeper on this. And then together we're creating some different statements that we're testing. And when the subconscious shows that there is some incongruency there, then we will change it. And at the end of the feedback loop, the person feels the difference in their muscle. They probably don't feel that different initially, but in the next couple of hours and days and weeks, they begin to integrate the session. And we do this thing called an activation step, which is, usually it's one step, but the idea is we take action in our lives that are aligned with that. I'll keep on the idea about dating and calling in love. Maybe the activation step is to change your profile photo on Instagram to one where you're actually showing your face because you've been hiding it, behind something. And then maybe, that's a real example, right? And then maybe you're going to change it on your dating app, and maybe you're going to actually commit to go on that dating app and connect with people that feel real authentic to you, right? This is like the action that we take after we do the inner work. And the integration of the work with the action step um, allows our subconscious to start acting in new ways. And our subconscious, remember, is our autopilot way of thinking, feeling, and behaving. So if we can start thinking, feeling, and behaving in new ways, we're putting out a different energetic frequency to the world. And with this different energetic frequency, we are able to then manifest that thing that we want. I'm going to go a little bit deeper here. And when the subconscious is not in alignment with that thing, right? When we get a weak muscle saying that actually it doesn't feel safe to be in, deep romantic love, essentially it is impossible or highly unlikely that that will happen in our lives. When we are able to change the subconscious, it doesn't guarantee that this is going to come into our lives, but it takes it from being impossible or unlikely up to possible, likely, maybe even certain, right? And this is really important. This is probability, right? This is basic probability. But if we can change the probability of us manifesting anything that we want by changing our subconscious, it means that we're more likely to be able to be the creators of our life and have what we deeply want in this life. And this has happened in my life time and time again. It's happened in my clients' lives time and time again. And I've tried so many modalities in the past. I'm university trained. I used behavioral therapies in the past and mindfulness-based cognitive therapies. They're all fantastic. I don't feel like they're anywhere near as potent as this modality that works with the body. I believe modalities that work with the body, like Psych-K and EFT, and other approaches that work with the body, are really, really, really powerful. They're in a whole league of their own, I think.
Yes, absolutely. And I resonate with Psyche so much as well because I am very quick. I like the change to be quick and effective. And just want to mention here that we can change a belief within minutes. Like, I mean, 1 minute, sometimes even 30 seconds, sometimes maybe a little longer, like 5 minutes. But really, it's a very, very quick method. And I just want to add one example of what you said about coming from like not likely to very likely. It's like opening the whole potential in subconscious mind. For example, I was working on myself when I just did the psychic workshop and I didn't really know how to get clients and what to do, and then I was encoding in my subconscious the belief that clients come to me from different directions or whatever else it was. I don't even remember. And before I did this belief, I didn't even see the option of how I could get them. Like, where do they come from? And after I did it, I was like, okay, I can post an announcement on Gumtree. I can do the Facebook ad. I can go to all the yoga and meditation studios and leave my leaflets there. And I can, and I just saw these possibilities. And I was
Yeah.
like, yeah, I can do it all. And before I didn't even see, my mind wasn't even like programmed to see the options. So this is what we mean by like opening the potential and making it more likely, because if you can see things that you haven't really seen, you haven't really thought of before, then you can take this action step, this activation step, as you said, and then make it your reality, right? So this is just one of the examples of how this potential can be open and give you this more certainty and more likelihood of that happening in your life. So yeah, and that's just one little example. And how did you start Psych-K?
How did I find it? How did I discover it?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
It came to me at the most perfect time in my life, really. Um, I was working in mental health and homelessness sector. So I was working as a case manager, a government kind of government funded job in Australia, and I was working there for 4 years, and I really loved the work that I was doing there. I loved working with these people. I felt so privileged to be in their lives. Like when things were really tough, I was there as their coach, right? Um, but my big problem was was that these people would very often, a year later or 6 months later, they'd be back in the same situation with more financial stress, more trauma, violence, like in the hospital, the mental health wards, physical health. Like it just kept coming round and round and round again. And I just felt like I've done all this training, and I still can't help these people to really change what's happening. There seems to be something else driving the ship that doesn't matter what we do here. Um, it seems that they back in their old ways. And that's when I understood that we don't manifest from the conscious mind. These people didn't want to be in these
Hmm.
situations. If they could manifest with the conscious mind, they would say, I don't want to be in these situations anymore. I'm going to find a new one. When I realized we manifest from the subconscious, we draw experiences to us from the subconscious based on what we have down there from our past. And that's a kind of scary thought. And when I understood this, and I didn't understand it because I read a book or heard a podcast, I saw it. Hundreds and hundreds of people that I worked with over the years, different ages, they had the same thing in common. They had multiple unprocessed traumas. They had negative beliefs about themselves and their potential, and they kept manifesting shitty stuff in their life. And I knew that there was something else. I knew there was something driving the ship. And, as soon as I knew that, I was like, I guess I was like asking the universe, like, please show me what's next. And I was researching different things. Maybe I'm going to go back to uni. Maybe I'm going to all these different things. And then one day I remember it was this morning. My partner was standing in the room. I'm getting ready to go to work, and she said, "Have you heard about Psych K?" I'm like, "No. What are you talking about?" And she's like, "It's I've heard about it on some podcasts. It's blowing up in California at the moment. In Australia, we always look at what's happening on the West Coast because it's always happening a bit before us here." And I'm like, okay, cool. For me at the time, I was used to hanging out with my friends, socializing, doing all the things I love to do. And to do that was a big stand in the first place for my future and for my worth and all that kind of stuff. And that training taught me the basics of kinesiology and some of the most basic psyche practices. Very simple, those still today in my practice. So that's really how I found it. And then, I went and done the advanced training after that. And then after that, I also went and trained in something called the spiral. And the spiral also uses kinesiology. It uses muscle testing. It works with the subconscious. It's also interested in working with the five bodies. So the mental, the emotional, the physical, the spiritual, and the energetic. And it's a very, very cool way of working. And I just did my training to become a practitioner of spiral.
Perfect. This is an amazing story. I love how you started it and how you were wondering about the subconscious first and then it just came to your life. This is really amazing. I also have a little bit of a crazy story about how Psyche came to my life because it was a perfect manifestation story to anyone who kind of like is doubtful about manifestation. It freaking works because once in my notebook I wrote that I really want to meet Bruce Lipton in person together with some other people that I really follow and really value. And I just forgot about it. I was just setting it as a goal, to just meet him in person one day. And at some point, I lived with this friend of mine, Layla, in Melbourne, in Australia. And then she went to New Zealand and she's sending me this message like, "Hey, I'm hanging out with Alex Lipton today. Maybe you know his uncle Bruce." I'm like, "Are you freaking kidding me? Of course I know Bruce Lipton. This is my number one, one of the first like my number one idols, for me when it comes to science and spirituality." I'm like, "Oh my God, girl, I'm like so envious. It's so amazing that you're meeting him and whatever." And then fast forward a few hours, she's sending me a selfie with Alex and Bruce. I'm like, "Girl, come on. Like, I really want to meet them." I just told her like, "Yeah, it's just really my dream to meet him." And then after like maybe a few days, I'm getting a screenshot from her where Bruce sends her an email saying, I wrote you and your friend on the list on my seminar in Auckland. So come if you want. You're on the list." And I'm like, Bruce Lipton invited me for his seminar. How does it happen? And I was said to my partner at the time, like, Ricky, we gotta go to New Zealand first. We were meant to go to Bali, but like I cannot just let this opportunity go. Like I need to go. And we went to Auckland. We changed our plans, and I met Bruce in person. I was like, Bruce, I'm doing NLP, I'm doing Reiki. What should I do? Like, I don't feel like this is mine. I don't feel like I'm super fulfilled doing that. And he's like, do Psych K, you're gonna love it. I'm like, okay, Bruce said it, I trust it. I'm just gonna do it. I'm not gonna, second guess it or whatever. And then maybe 2 or 3 months afterwards, I did the basic and advanced training in London, and it literally changed my life. But seriously, this how this manifested was just so crazy. I was just like, how does the universe even align it? Like how did it even happen that it happens? But it's really funny how it works. Like when you set an intention and you just let it go, you're not attached to the thing, like how it will happen or what exactly needs to happen, or what you need to do to make it happen. Then it just flows. And it's also crazy because the same girl made me also kind of like go into the other direction of the modality that I'm using with Teal Swan, with another idol of mine, because the same girl was like, oh yeah, Teal Swan has workshop in Melbourne. And I'm like, what, really? I'm going. And then when I went, I discovered the modality, and it's just crazy how one person could pretty much like get me to do what I'm doing right now. The full coaching and my whole profession is based on meeting this one person, and it's just so crazy. So I just wanted to quickly share this, because for anyone who wants to manifest things in their life, just know that if you don't like cling to a specific solution, or you're not attached to the way of how it needs to happen, then the universe can work its magical ways and deliver it to you in the most surprising way. I
Yeah,
think.
yeah. Look, I agree.
Alrighty.
The whole idea of desire around manifestation. One of the most powerful books that I've read is um, Dr. David Hawkins, his book called Letting Go. And letting go, I don't know if you've read this. Yeah. Letting go actually describes
Yes.
how stress transformation inside K works. That's really, the way that
Yep.
I see it. And he says, desire, especially strong desire, frequently blocks us and stops us from getting what we so deeply want. And that's the clinging, that's the aversion to, I don't want that, I'm scared of that, I don't want to go, like, and it's that clinging to, I need something to be a certain way. And so really it's about high intention and low attachment, and just co-creating with the universe.
Absolutely. Because as you say, if you are clinging to something and you are coming from resistance to something that you now have, then you're having resistance in your body. Whereas if you like accept where you're at, but you prefer to have a different reality, then it's from preference. It's not coming from the fear of resistance of what is right now. And I think that's really powerful, because yeah, I even had a session with my friend who is a clairvoyant maybe like a week ago, and he was like, okay, you want to improve your health, stop wanting being more healthy. You want to improve your business, stop wanting having more clients, or stop wanting this, stop wanting that. Everything is gonna flow more if you just stop wanting everything. And so I just really feel like this is so on point that we're talking about this right now, because it is my biggest theme right now in my life, and I'm practicing it through like this kind of like a little bit of a surrender experiment, just like this book of Michael Singer. um, I'm trying to practice it really in everyday life, in even small situations. When someone is saying something, I'm like, yeah, whatever, however you say, whatever you want. I'm just like surrendering to whatever is going to happen and how things are going to go. And I can tell you, already it works miracles already now, when I realized it more and when I started practicing more. So yeah, it is really, really powerful and important message. So thank you for sharing this as well, because I think we need to talk about this, the letting go, the surrendering as a perfect divine flow. Amazing. And so, why did you become a self worth specialist? Was it because of some of your experiences, or was it because of something else, maybe a person in your life? How did it happen?
Yeah, you know, I guess through Psych K and through being able to start having conversations or communication with my subconscious, I began to pinpoint what my biggest blocks were. My biggest blocks in business, my biggest blocks in love, my biggest blocks in health, my biggest blocks in mental health, all these kind of things. And what I noticed was that all my stuff, all my trauma, all my baggage, everything that I needed to process was really aligned to low self worth. It was really related to my story of low self worth. And it was really related to the experiences that I had through primary school and high school, where I allowed an external lens of validation. So, I didn't go very good at school. I got in a lot of trouble. And I got a lot of, I guess, negative validation externally about my ability to be a good human being and be successful and these kind of things. And I had the same struggles with sports. And I also had the same struggles. I really wasn't very good at sports. And so I really didn't feel very worthy there. And I was not happy with my body image for pretty much from age 10 until 20s. I really didn't like my body, and all of this stuff, and all the things people said and everything externally really played a part in through repetition, um, programming my subconscious to live in a state of pretty low self-worth and not thinking that I was capable of very much. Um, I learned lots of coping strategies through this time. Strategies like what's now known in psychology as learned helplessness, which is where we give up and accept our fate before giving something a really good go. And I noticed that I was doing that quite a lot in multiple areas of my life and really sabotaging myself. So um, when I discovered that, I started working on all things self-worth. I started thinking, how do I increase my self-worth? What do I do? And that's been a journey of many years. Now I feel like I'm so clear on what it actually takes to change self-worth within a human being, and the repercussions of that. I believe that the repercussions of healthy self-worth, um, like it makes things limitless to you. Like everything is possible when you feel worthy as a human being on a basic level, when you feel good enough, smart enough, beautiful enough, successful enough, all these kind of things. So this is an area that I find that in most of the clients I work with, one of the biggest things blocking them is low self-worth. And underneath the low self-worth is all these subconscious programs that are propping this low self-worth up. It's holding it in place. So I go in or together we go in and we clean up these subconscious programs and any of these traumatic experiences. And I teach them how to do some of this for themselves. I don't teach them how to do Psych K, but I teach them how to use other modalities that I'm allowed to teach that allow them to be able to release some of this stress for themselves, reprogram their subconscious, and increase their self-worth. And I hold them accountable week after week, because I only work with clients for 12 weeks, 16 weeks, or 6 months. I have 3 different tiers. And in that time, I hold them accountable to take the action in their life that reinforces their strong self-worth and to stop taking action that is reinforcing their low self-worth. And this can be really hard. Sometimes this involves little things like not drinking alcohol every night or smoking cigarettes or, not giving yourself the sleep you need. And sometimes it's big things. Sometimes it's quitting jobs, breaking up with partners, and I guess breaking up with friendships, where these relationships are actually a catalyst to keep on reinforcing poor self-worth within you. And yeah, I think through that journey, I can keep encouraging my clients slowly to take this action, and then they get to reprogram their self-worth. So yeah, it's something that I'm so interested in. I actually, I've written about 80% of a book on self-worth, and I've stopped. I thought it was going to be released this year, and I want to rewrite the whole thing right now. I've learned so much, in, I guess through clients and through watching my young daughter grow up, that I do want to rewrite the book. I want to make it. I'm writing this grand, large, book, and I want to make something really simple and digestible, and take all the big things and bring them down. So recently I've had the voice like, come on, get back on with that book, get it done. It doesn't have to be this huge task that I've been working towards. It can be really simple. And I feel like that's coming a little bit closer to getting back on with that. So hopefully I have something like that to share with everyone in the not so distant future.
This is amazing, and I think that compressed knowledge nowadays is actually pretty good. So it could be simple and compressed so that people can take it in. Because there's so much information around us right now, so many videos, so many podcasts to listen to. So I feel like if you can give people just the compressed, like the jewels, the wisdom jewels, in the book, I'm sure it's gonna be great. And so you mentioned your daughter, so I would love to chat a tiny bit about conscious parenting and how do you approach it, because you're quite a fresh dad, as I know, and I would love to know, like, maybe how did you even get ready to have a baby? I mean, did you, for example, did you gain any knowledge about it? Did you listen to some people? And how could people that are maybe just about to become a parent, what they should know based on your experience, and maybe what kind of resources you recommend for them as well?
Yeah, of course. Um, it's interesting because, I guess this book that I was writing, I guess there's two different books here, right? Because the book that I'm writing is very detailed, and I go into a lot of depth around the ideas that I think that parents need to know when they're going to bring a child into this world. So I talk about the subconscious mind and how it is actually programmed, and how we can help program young people, as parents or as school teachers. Or I originally wrote this book in mind for anyone that was, supporting the growth of children. Um, and I guess, you're giving me the thought now that I should split this up the middle and have that one over there, and then have one more simple about self-worth for, people that are wanting to change that within themselves as adults. So this is good. Thank you. um, so yeah,
You're
I guess,
welcome. My
yeah,
pleasure.
yeah, I guess, as you know, me and my partner were I guess you're never really ready for kids, but we were trying. We decided, okay, we're in a place, we're ready. Um, you know, I had we just left Sydney. I'd quit my job. I was up in Byron, and I was launching my business full time. And I had some success in that first 6 months. Enough success for me to go, all right, I feel like we're financially in an okay place to bring a child into this world. I think it's the biggest fear for men is, can I provide? I think for all, but I think men have this fear. And so I obviously did a lot of work on that, on myself. And we fell pregnant, you know, and I really believe we fell pregnant because when we moved up here, we left a lot of stress in Sydney. We left a lot of worries back there, and we just came into a better level of health mentally, physically. We're eating better, more organic food, the farmers markets. less rushing, less beeping the horn, slow driving, all this kind of thing, right? A lot of time in nature and surfing and all the good things. And I think this helped us to be in a healthy place. Um, I worked with a naturopath, and I was told that it's really important for men to, because I guess the sperm needs to be really healthy. And at the beginning, it's really important for the man to be off drugs and alcohol, and to be, you know, taking some different vitamins and things like that. So I did all that kind of stuff, and we fell pregnant pretty quickly, which was beautiful. And as those months came closer and closer, we were, there was lots of different things that we did, but one big thing I did was I went and did a plant medicine ceremony. For the first time in my life, I sat with San Pedro. I have never done much plant medicine in my life, mainly because I guess I always believed in the psychology route of healing. I always believed in doing it that way, I guess. And I think there was fear as well, but I felt really ready, and I went and did that ceremony, just a 1-day ceremony. And it was a very personal inner journey. I wasn't really, there for the friends or the connections. It was like really like what was going on for me. It was very powerful, beautiful, beautiful ceremony. And I think that was an important rite of passage for me, and supported me to prepare for my daughter to come into this world. And I feel like there's so much I know about psychology and developmental psychology, things like attachment theory, stuff like developmental psychology. Um, you know, these ideas were, I guess, are very important to me. And I think that every parent needs to understand the basis of some of these things. I think that every parent needs to understand that the conscious mind that that sees in color doesn't really work until kids are, at least 10 years old. Before that, we really see in black and white. And what I mean by black and white is things are just good or bad. There's an openness or there's a closed. We're in that learning or we're in that safety mechanism. You can't reason with children, and so often adults forget that their minds and children's minds work a little bit differently. So yeah, I think there's a lot of different things I suggest, but I guess if anyone listening is in this space, reach out. I will happily send you chunks of my unfinished book that just break down some of these concepts. Like I break down attachment theory, I break down the subconscious mind, the way it works. I break down stuff around trauma. I break down learned helplessness theory. Like these are just like some of the most basic things that you don't need to know everything, but I think it's important to understand the basics of these things and how they work, and take them into consideration when you begin your journey.
Mm-hmm.
And something that was very surprising to me was I thought, that maybe when our daughter came along, her name's Rumi, when Rumi came along, that maybe the inner work I was gonna take a break for a little bit. I had my hands full. I was busy. There's, so much, but absolutely not a chance. The inner work ramped the hell up because I mean, okay, like the answer to this, but where do we learn, even before we're parents or when we become parents, where do we learn everything we know about parenting? We learn it from our parents.
From our parents. Yep.
Yep. And we learn it when we're before the age of 10. We learn it just from picking up what they do, and we create lots of assumptions and programs and beliefs about that. And our parents did the same thing to their parents, and this has gone on and on and on and on and on. So it was my first time being a parent. In the first couple of weeks, I was noticing some habitual autopilot ways of thinking, feeling, and behaving. that were I was embarrassed about. That I was ashamed of some of the things I did. I raised my voice sometimes. My daughter would scratch my face and I would grab her arm with pressure, enough pressure that I was like, oh, I can't believe I just did that, and it was on autopilot. These were the exact same things that happened when I was younger. And this is where I learned these things. So I had my work cut out for me, I had to start doing some reprogramming and some deconditioning. And I had to notice that I had autopilot tendencies to do things that weren't aligned with me. And it wasn't enough just to be a mindful parent, because the times when our subconscious programs really play out is when we're stressed, tired, or emotionally upset. Our conscious mind is off. Those subconscious programs are on, and as a parent, an early parent with the lack of sleep and all that kind of stuff, it's pretty hard to just be mindful and choose what behavior you're going to do. And I'm so glad that I knew as soon as these behaviors came up, I was like, okay, great. Take myself to my room, sit down for 30, 40 minutes, go through all the stuff, go through my past, reprogram the subconscious, drop off all that baggage, come back, and now I can begin acting in ways that are now possible for me that were impossible for me just 40 minutes ago. This has been huge.
Wow, this is actually such an interesting thing to think about, because before you actually become a parent, you don't think of, oh, how am I going to behave when I'm a parent? Like, it's not even in your conscious awareness or conscious mind to think like, oh, how am I going to, what kind of program I will have automatically in me if I have a kid. It's like before you actually have a kid, you don't even know. So then yeah, as you said, the work starts kind of from scratch in this topic, because of course you can program some beliefs like I'm the best parent ever, I treat my kid really well and whatever, but it could be so ingrained in your subconscious mind that only when you do it, you catch yourself and you're like, ooh, I didn't really want to act like that. So it's actually something I've never thought about. So thank you very much for sharing that, because I feel like people need to be ready for that. That it might happen, that they can be surprised with themselves and how they behave. But just to anyone who listens and is a little bit scared of it, or whatever, shocked with it and anxious about it, don't worry, because people like Jakob or people like me or other practitioners can help you reprogram these things. And it's not something that you can never change. You can actually look at it and be like, okay, this is my subconscious programming. What can I do to change my behavior? What can I do to change the way that I'm responding to my kids? So don't worry, there are solutions for that. Just so that people know. And yeah, so thank you for sharing. I seriously have never thought about it, so for me it's also very, very deep, and I will certainly process it also after our call. Because yeah, I don't think I'm going to be a mom for maybe in the next few years, but at some point I probably will, and I certainly want to. So thank you so much. It's going to be helpful for me. And so I would love to chat a little bit about your business mentoring, because I know that you work with conscious people, conscious businesses. So please let us know, what does it encompass, or how do you lead people? What do you help with, and so on?
Yeah, of course. Um, my journey, okay, my dream to be a coach in private practice, to be able to work online, to have a full load of clients and to be earning enough money to support my family. That's been my dream for over 10 years. I was dreaming of this in my early 20s when I was doing my degree. I really wanted this, and many of my subconscious programs got in the way of making that happen immediately. Many stories, much low self-worth. It led me on a bit of a journey because I needed to learn some more things along my way until I could get here. And I feel like I've been living this kind of life now for, a little over 2 years, and I'm grateful of this life every single day. Um, and the reason I tell that story is because I think that there's a lot of people out there with dreams to do amazing, amazing work. I only am interested in working with people whose businesses are about changing others and changing the world for the positive. I'm really not interested in helping people who are, in industries that are only about financial gain to have more financial gain. I don't want to work with those people. But people that want to make an impact on other people's lives, often the biggest thing that is blocking, like that's a beautiful dream to have. And the thing that's blocking them is one of two things. One, they have all these subconscious beliefs, programs, past things that their parents said, that different people said that are blocking them. I can give you an example of one of those from my life in a moment. And the second one is they don't know how to clearly sell, articulate, and market their services. It doesn't matter how good you are at what you do. You can be the best in the entire world. If you cannot sell, articulate, and market what you do, you will not be able to make an impact. You will not be able to create an income. And you won't be able, it won't be sustainable that you keep doing what you do. So I see it's a two-pronged approach. One is clean up all the subconscious stuff that's there, open all the possibilities and potentials. I love that example you shared earlier about when we clean it up, like more potentials and ideas and clarity and direction comes in. It's not magic. It just cleans stuff up so we're able to think logically, and we're able to tune in emotionally to our, our emotional is our intuition as well. So if we've got logic and intuition, we're much more able to manifest what we want and take aligned action to bring that thing manifest. So they're the two things. And when I work with people in a mentorship, I'm helping them on both of those levels to put the practical stuff into place, to be able to sell, market, and articulate what they do, to think about what their offerings are. What are they actually offering from the perspective of what their clients need, not from the perspective of what they think they'd like to sell or what their ego thinks would be a creative, cool thing to do, or anything else. Like what their clients actually need, selling it at a price that motivates their clients to show up with 100% integrity. That's why I don't sell one-off sessions of Psych K or anything else. That's why I don't ever give free things away, because when I give free things away, I give free meditations and e-courses and masterclasses and all that kind of stuff, but I don't give away free sessions of the work that I do, because people don't value free things. People value the things that they spend their hard-earned money on. When they invest their money, they're investing their full self into a new future or whatever it is they're calling in. And that in itself allows them to be motivated to take all that action and change what's going on for them and bring that new life manifest. So that's a bit about what the mentorship is like. At the moment, I'm working specifically with Psych K facilitators. I'm starting a mentorship in February, and I'm calling in Psych K facilitators because the training is amazing. The tools are amazing. The only issue is it can be hard to sell and articulate and market what we do, to tell your unique story and to bring clients in to know what to charge and to know how to run those sessions and all that kind of stuff. She said, you don't get paid very good for that kind of work. She said nurses, school teachers, and social workers, they don't get paid work, but it's not for the money. We don't do it for the money. We do it to impact and make this world a better place, right? This is the story that I heard along time and time again. So the assumptions I came up with was, if I become a coach, counselor, social worker, therapist, teacher, all these professions that I was thinking about getting into, that I won't have much money, right? So that was one side. And and I had some beliefs there that because reinforced time and time again, and because she did this kind of work and she was getting paid, in the less than $100 an hour range, right? That kind of smaller money, right? On the other side was my dad. My dad was a small business owner. He was a mechanic and he ran a very successful mechanic business. He had staff working for him. But my dad was very busy. He was pretty stressed. His he worked on the weekends. Yeah, he worked at least a half day on the weekends. He always had his phone on, which meant that people could call any time of the day. And he did give really good service and he ran a really, really good business. But what the things that and he always said to me, don't run a business too hard. All the stuff, take your, you said, they're making 6 days, more money, and they make mistakes. He said, it's so stressful. You know, I would hair on my head if I wasn't running business stories. Right? As a kid, I used to get up early, like 5 o'clock, and I'd see my dad. He'd say bye, he'd go off, and it would still be dark, and I'd watch him drive away, and he'd come back in the evening, and it was dark again when he'd come back. And on the weekends, he was like mowing the lawns and doing. He was so busy all the time, and I learned that if you were going to be successful, and I could tell that he was successful. If I was going to be successful, that it was going to come at a price, and that price was going to be time freedom, and kind of stress was going to come with that, right? And eventually my parents' relationship broke down. They ended up splitting up, and my mum blamed a lot of this on my dad's business. That he was so with his business, he was so busy, so much time was there. And that always upset her. So I heard these things again and again and again and again, and I picked these up from my parents, and I made a lot of beliefs and assumptions that were very unconscious at the time. Remember, my prefrontal cortex, my conscious mind wasn't really fully working, so I had some ideas and I filled in the gaps, and my subconscious created some beliefs, and I didn't think about it again until I was in my 20s and 30s. And, every job that I've applied for, even way above I get given that job. I was so good at interviews and working for other people. And I was like, why do I find it so hard for people? Why do I find it so hard to make wealth and abundance through my business? Why? Oh my God. As I started using Psych K and speaking to the subconscious, looking at these blocks, my blocks are that I believe that I'm going to lose time, lose money. To have money and success, I'm going to lose time. I'm going to lose love. I'm going to feel stressed and overwhelmed. I'm not going to be able to have time to spend with my family. And in my industry, people don't earn much money anyway. Right? This is all the stuff that I had. Of course, I was finding it hard to take my business from anything from a side hustle into something that could actually support my family. The minute I knew what this was, I did all the work that I could on this. I spent a couple of hours doing this. I did it with other facilitators, and things started to change. Things started to change massively, right? And this is the kind of stuff that I feel is holding lots of us back, but we're unaware of it. And that's why that in talk therapy, it can take a very long time to get through and find all the things. But with the ability to muscle test and speak to the subconscious, we can save a lot of time. We can get to the root of things. So I hope that really helps
Yeah,
to illustrate.
absolutely. Oh, yes, it does. And I really feel like it's so crazy how it's literally copy paste. Something that they did, it's literally copied and pasted in your mind. And then you're like, oh my God, this is exactly what my parents felt. And before you actually look into this, you have no idea. And it is a beautiful story to really picture how it all works. And I think it's really powerful because you can have different beliefs from different people, from all your caregivers. Pretty much you can adopt something else, and then they can clash inside of you, and then, okay, I want to do this, but no, this part of me says that I shouldn't do this because this is unsafe, and this, and it's kind of like an inner battle, inner conflict between the ideas that you might have or the perspectives that you might have in yourself. And then you're not going to go anywhere because there's just so much resistance in you and so many different things happening. So thank you so much for sharing this story. I think it's a perfect example of how our subconscious mind can block us from what we want in our life. And so if some people, maybe some psyche facilitators, or maybe some other people needing your help would like to reach out, or maybe some conscious parents, what is the easiest way to find you? Is it the website or Instagram?
Yeah, look, I think it's really easy just to DM me on Instagram. My handle is I am the mindful coach. Just DM me. I'm usually on there. And one of my ideals is that I doesn't matter how I don't doesn't matter how many followers I have or where I go in my life. I really want to always be responding to humans on that level. Like, I always want to be contactable. I hate when people get to that level and they just don't write back to you and stuff. Like, I'm genuinely open to having a little chat with you, in the DMs, guiding you towards some of my free offerings. If you want to be involved in any of my paid offerings, there's also the opportunity to do that. And I'm so happy to point you in the right direction, do whatever I can to support you. So yeah, reach out. Would love to have a chat, see what we can learn from each other.
Yeah, I can really feel your heart when you're saying all that. I can really feel that you just want to help people and support them, and I can feel your love. So thank you so much for being such a shining light in this world and helping others to change the world as well, because this is so important, especially now in the times of pandemics and this crazy world and whatever happens right now. So thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and being here with us on the podcast. I really am grateful for your energy and everything you do for this world. And I'm hoping to talk to you again in the future, maybe, if you're open to it. So guys, to whoever listens, check Jacob out. I am the mindful coach on Instagram. You're gonna love it, everything that he does. I follow him for a while now, and I really love all the content. So thank you so much, Jacob, for this beautiful conversation. And yeah, I'm sending you so much love to Byron Bay and to the whole town because I freaking love it.
Thank you so much, Karolina. Wishing you a really smooth transition into your new home, exciting travels, and let's stay in touch. Thank you so much for having me
Thank you.
here.
Namaste. Thank you for listening or watching us today. I'm really feeling so filled up with this conversation. And I just want to mention that if you feel like you struggle with some limiting beliefs, you can find Jacob, I'm the Mindful Coach on Instagram, or you can find me, the Connection Catalyst on Instagram, and we are going to certainly help you move through them. So if you're curious to also know more about Psych K and how it works, you can find more information on our Instagram, or you can go to www.connectionhideandcatalyst.com. And there are some videos that I have about it and some more information if you're curious, and also some testimonials to check how it works. So thanks again for being with us today, and hopefully see you next time.